Hello? Hello everyone! Welcome to a Prime Minister's Questions stream for the 9th of March 2022. Oh boy, we're 2 weeks into an invasion and there are cracks showing. There are cracks showing certainly on social media. It's quite interesting. People care less about optics and more about, yes, but this. But you do realise by doing that, you look like you might be trying to justify something. Okay. It's been a rather interesting week politically, certainly from a politics stance. And that's because Boris is trying to do something. He's trying. Yesterday, we had President Volodymyr Zelensky deliver a speech to the Houses of Parliament, House of Commons. And in that speech, which was translated, he spoke about the need for unity and assistance. And Parliament, ever the opportunist in virtue signalling, I guess, they all applauded, they all cheered this man on, and blah, 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 basically. Hello, Swan, Chaos, Booper Duper, and Fubar Freak. Hope you're all well today. I hope you're all, I hope you've all been enjoying yourselves this week. I think this PMQs is interesting, by the way, because we've genuinely got some decent questions. Hello, Nathan. 2 for 2. Nice. Congratulations. Yes, it's a good one because for once we're not asked questions about something we'd expect. But there is something we can talk about, a couple things. First thing is that because the world has sanctioned Russia to the point that they're going to default on some of their debt, which is quite interesting. Russia has retaliated by making it so that anyone... Why am I yawning now? Sorry. Anyone that has gas from them or oil or whatever it is they get from Russia, they're about to have things really difficult because the premium on that is about to go sky high. Not that it means much, because let's face it, the financial aspect is killing their economy. But because the megalomaniac in charge doesn't care, it's not going to amount to anything. But the part I want to focus on first is not that at all. In fact, it's something very different. I had to grab the source because I forgot to. Something really interesting. There was a report, investigation, and then a report done on the former Speaker of the House, John Bercow. Now, when he left after being the Speaker for, 10 years? After that, you would have thought he'd go straight to the House of Lords like everyone else does. That's what happens with the Speaker usually, but he has become an exception. For somebody that championed inclusivity, diversity, and proudly championed LGBT and all the other letter rights. He has, he's got a little rap sheet now. And because of it, he's suffered a consequence for this, actually. So Bercow is a serial bully who, over his time as Commons Speaker, subjected his staff to violent temper tantrums and scathing verbal abuse. Now, many of you know, so he now faces, as a consequence, being banned from Parliament for life. Because the official probe by the Standards Watchdog, branded him a liar. And that his treatment of 3 staff warranted expulsion had he not quit in 2019. So if he'd stayed on, he would have been expelled from Parliament. That would have been unprecedented for a speaker, like in the 21st century especially. 20th as well, I do believe. Let's see. Hello to anyone else I haven't said hello to. Hello, Leona. Hope you're well. Even though we spoke about 10 minutes before I started streaming. Hope you're well. Hello, Mark. Hope you're well. So, another consequence from this would include being blocked from holding a Commons pass that is usually given, Hello Mazime, to all former politicians. Now, Labour are the ones that are actually calling for him to be stripped of his membership after he defected from the Tories last year. And his membership has been administratively suspended pending an investigation. He is, because of this as well, the first speaker in modern history to be blocked from a peerage as a reward after standing down. He has been guilty or found guilty of 21 claims relating to behaviour during the decade that he served as Speaker. Now, Bercow has said that this is a travesty of justice rooted in prejudice, spite and hearsay, carried out by a kangaroo court, and that might well be the case. I do believe that all forms of criminal claims or things like this should be done in a court of law, 100%. So I'd like to see that play out. I just wanted to include it because there are people that have defended him. You got David Lammy for Labour, who insisted he's not embarrassed over previously calling John Bercow an intergalactic hero. All right, how about Gary Lineker, who used to lavish praise on the Remainer Speaker for being, principled and a difficult act to follow. Okay. Cool. I'll leave it with that. I find this quite interesting because he was the Speaker. We did lots of jokes about him in the past. And I think it's right to keep tabs on some of the politicians who, let's say, they resurface or former politicians, and they get caught out. And this investigation's been going on for years. And I think it's important to acknowledge it because, yeah. Right, so I've waffled on long enough, and I'm sure somebody, if they do watch it on playback, please do, will complain that I prattled on for 8 minutes 16 seconds. So here's the video. There you go. Well, it's 8:20 now. You everywhere while they... She's a busy bee. So, PMQs. Here we go. In top-notch quality, everyone. 480p. This is what taxpayer money pays for. It doesn't pay for 720 at least. No. No, we don't even get 10. We don't get 1080. We don't get anything better than that. No. We get 480. All right, here we go.
Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, I would like
if it's too loud, let me know.
The British Sign Language interpretation of proceedings is available to watch on Parliament Live TV. We now come to questions to Prime Minister. I start with Pauline Latham.
Second yawn, sorry. I do actually need to pause though. Sorry for the yawn. The reason why is I feel sorry for Lindsay Hoyle. He has a slur to his speech, and sometimes I find it harder to understand him. He has a very booming voice when he uses it, but otherwise he's a very soft-spoken man, and I think it's harder to understand. I don't know how he still has his job, to be honest. Not because he has no control, but because he kind of doesn't at the same time, if that makes sense. Like, he does have control, but he doesn't have the presence to control. I don't know, John probably does deserve to at least have a fair defence. I agree. Fair defence. That's what I do believe. Internal reviews and that kind of stuff doesn't do it enough times for me. Thank you, Nathan, for counting my yawns.
Question number 1, sir.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Never before has this House listened to an address like the one given yesterday by President Zelensky. And so I want to tell the House that working with our friends and allies across the free world, we will be doing even more in the coming days to protect the people of Ukraine. And, Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend, the Defence Secretary, will be setting out more details for the House later on. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Cool. I'm not going to go through that speech from Volodymyr Zelensky. We might cover it next week on Political Recap, but I can't make promises on it.
Pauline Latham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My son Ben died from an aortic dissection at age 44, leaving a wife and 2 young children. a condition which kills 2,000 people every year needlessly, more than die on the roads. Most people do not know anything about this condition until it devastates their family, like mine. So many of these cases are preventable by identifying those at risk and early and accurate diagnosis. Would the Prime Minister commend the work of the aortic dissection?
Oh, it's a plant question. Okay, so I will agree. First of all, I'm not going to be a dick about what she's been through, or her family and all that. But it's entirely a plant question. And we've covered these before. They're always a question that commends a service or to make the party look good. That's the point. It is never about discussing the policy. It's always about making the government look like it's doing something.
Charitable trust in working with all aspects of the patient pathway about this condition, and in particular, will he commit to public funding for research into the diagnosis of aortic dissection and into genetic...
Aortic dissection. Why does that just sound like someone actually taking a knife and cutting into someone's aorta? Am I wrong? It sounds like it.
Screening for it.
Prime Minister.
May I say to my honourable friend first how very sorry I am, as I'm sure the whole House is, for the loss of her son, Ben. And she's a passionate advocate for this work, and I thank the Aortic Dissection Charitable Trust. She's obviously, Mr. Speaker, completely right that accurate, fast diagnosis and treatment is crucial, and...
something you don't get with any NHS then.
That's why I'm very pleased that the National Institute
Hi,
for
Bjorn.
Health Research is looking to do further work in this area, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health, will meet her at his earliest convenience.
Now comes the Leader of the
So after he's added McDonald's.
Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Yeah. Right, so I said these are good questions. Not only are they good questions, they're not what I expected. I thought this would be more Ukraine-related. What are we doing to help them? But we're not going to get to those, I don't believe, until we get to Blackford, leader of the SNP.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The typical energy bill is going up by £700 next month.
Not a joke. It's going up by an exponential amount of money. We here pay with keys, so we put money onto it, we top it up. But now we know our energy bill our energy will not go as far as it used to. It's going to double, quite frankly, and that's really bad.
And that's because of pressures before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, because they've got to protect that profit margin.
The Chancellor's solution? A forced £200 loan for every household, paid back in mandatory instalments over 5 years. The big gamble behind that policy was that energy costs would drop quickly after a short spike. That bet now looks certain to fail. When will the Prime Minister force the Chancellor into a U-turn?
So before he answers that, he's reading his answer to the question, is he not supposed to know when it comes to I said plant. Questions that he knows the answer to already will be plants, but also behind him are MPs that serve as under-secretaries. They are the ones that will have, with other people, worked out what all the questions will have been and have suitable answers and responses. And then Boris will use his wit and ignore most of it. Now, this question is important because the government is giving these loans out, these really pathetic loans, to cover this hike that has to be then paid back. And I don't think that's the right way of tackling this issue at all. We are, as a country, trying to become less dependent on outside sources of energy. Russian, for example, makes up a very small amount. Very small amount. So why is it that ours are being hiked so much? And if that's the case, why is the government so interested in protecting the big companies and their profit margins than he is, protecting the people and making sure that they can afford to live? Which makes him look like a quintessential conservative, doesn't it? But at the same time, he's in a bit of a bind. Because if he can't get their energy companies to bend a little, then it just proves that the energy companies control the government. Well, along with others. So this question's important. Very good and important.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend, the Chancellor, has set out plans to help families with energy costs, with unprecedented measures to abate council tax by £150. Mr.
Do you want? Sorry. So this council tax thing is a load of crap, and there's a reason why. Councils have had to increase their council tax because a lot of them are in debt. Because based on what they're getting, they don't have enough to pay for the services. Also, poor spending on their part, not living within their means. So offsetting the council tax is a load of bollocks because they're going to have to hike that anyway. They've already hiked it. It's already going up. So what are you actually talking about?
Speaker, in addition to all the other schemes that we are putting forward.
Bit nebulous.
And I can tell the House that, yes, he's absolutely right that we need to meet the long-term impacts of the spike in energy prices, and that's why I will be setting out an energy independence plan.
Oh, this sounds important.
For this country, Mr. Speaker, in the course of the next few days, to ensure that we undo some of the damage of previous decisions taken, not least by the Labour government, to invest in not to invest in nuclear, Mr. Speaker, and so that we prepare our people for the long term with sustainable, cost-efficient energy supply.
Okay, a couple of things. I'm going to go back here, right, because I want to look up something and I don't want the screen to go grey. Firstly, the government is already U-turning on something else. That would be fracking. Let's see, when did he assume office as an MP? Gotcha. So, Keir Starmer is taking the blame here to an extent for Labour's previous mistakes, right? Well, Labour were in power up to 2010. Keir Starmer didn't become an MP until 2015. So, does that point really carry much weight? He can't take the blame for a party he wasn't even an MP for. He was a part of the Crown Prosecution Service back then. Also, you've been in office for 12 years, and you tell me you haven't been able to when you had a majority government. You haven't been able to push forward with nuclear. The nuclear thing is a rather interesting one because people use fear-mongering as a reason not to invest in it. But it's the best one that we have available. It's the best option. But that's not to say it's the only option or it's not. It's perfect. You know, that's what it is, right? No, it's not. Find one that is. There isn't one. You will not find an energy source that's perfect at this present time. Don't say wind, because it costs a lot to build those wind generators, and they don't generate as much as you think. And solar panels are incredibly unenvironmentally friendly. Environmentally unfriendly. They really are. Have you seen how they're made? Come on, get good. But there isn't really not much wrong with using nuclear. But the scaremongering was there. The thing is, the Conservatives are now about to U-turn on fracking. So they're probably more than likely going to bring that back to try and help. Not a joke, by the way. We're a small country. Fracking is not a good idea. But at the same time, that's not to say it can't be implemented in this country. It's just that as a country, we might not be the ideal size to be able to do something like that. Send nuclear waste to the moon. Hey, let's light that moon up green, boy. I'm okay with this. Can we send it to the clangers? Yeah, and hello, Michael. Hope you're well. If there's anyone else I haven't said hello to, do let me know in the chat, along with smashing the like button. Boy, I would appreciate it. Boris had a good answer here, but then Boris had to go and do the one thing he can't help but do, and it makes him look bad. And that is he had to go then dab on the Labour Party. You've been in office for 12 years and you're still struggling with this. 12 years. Where are we? Oh, yeah. Into the sun!
Speaker, I don't think the Prime Minister understands the mess he's in. Working families are facing a £700 spike in April. They won't even receive their £200 loan from the Chancellor until October.
Yeah, that's expedited for you, isn't it?
The wholesale price of oil and gas is now ballooning.
Yeah, my friend Dave, when he was here, showed me diesel and whatever petrol prices there are. They're really high. Really high. Insanely high. Stupidly, insanely high. And they'll never go down. Or they will. They'll go down a little. No, they won't. If the companies that sell them know they can keep them there, they'll keep them there. Hydropower ain't green either, really. Annoyingly, it's not good enough to power the country, you know, for the number of people here. Hello, Tailsdoll. Hope you're well. They're going to benefit them exactly. They're going to do that.
So, by October, when the loan finally comes in, household bills are set to shoot up by another £1,000. It's a total mess.
It is. That is a monstrous increase. I like that the... Oh, bloody hell, look at Ed Miliband's face there. God, he looks monstrous. So, the Conservatives have been bragging about the fact that, you know, they've managed to get more people up to 12,750 without paying tax. Fantastic. They've increased tax, though, after that. Okay. So, nice. Move everyone to Iceland. I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world. In Star Trek, Denobulans live on one continent. What's to say we can't? So you've got that. Oh, why did I do that? I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the increase. You've got the increase. The tax going up. You've got council tax going up. So it's all well good saying people are earning more, but actually, no, they're not. They're losing more now. There's no incentive to earn more because they're being hit harder. And the reducing of tax duties, duty taxes, they won't. Annoyingly, they should, but they won't. And they'll make every excuse not to because they've got a lot of very wealthy friends to protect.
So I ask again, when is the Prime Minister going to force the Chancellor to U-turn?
So this is interesting. He's asked the same question a second time. Boris being Boris, though, he's about to do something really stupid. And it's called shifting the goalpost.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if he's asking for the Chancellor to U-turn on the support that we're giving to families and households...
That's not what he meant at all. He wants you to U-turn on these hikes. Or U-turn on what you're offering and go in a direction where you actually help somebody.
I think that he's absolutely out of his mind. We are going to continue to give people support throughout this difficult period, as we did throughout the coronavirus epidemic, Mr. Speaker.
Unless you're self-employed, in which case you had to wait several months for help, and it was a one-time payment, which ended up becoming 5 because we were locked down for 2 years. Not in one stretch, obviously, but you know what I mean.
With unprecedented levels of support, we have a £200 discount on bills, £150...
£200 discount when the bills go up by a total of £1,500. Can someone please tell me, is that akin to a staff discount? Because if it is, it's really shit.
A non-repayable reduction in council tax and £144 million extra to help councils support vulnerable families with their energy bills.
I mean, based on how much that energy bill is going up by, a lot of families are about to become vulnerable. I assume you'll make this subjective and just say, you're not vulnerable. Why? Because you've got one light bulb that's functioning. It's a great backup heater as well. Energy-efficient bulbs are known for generating heat.
Altogether, Mr. Speaker, there is a £20 billion package of financial help that we are giving the British people. And
just a quick thing. There's nearly, 70 million people in this country? Just, 20 billion doesn't go as far as you think it does.
We will continue to do more. I think a U-turn, Mr. Speaker, is the last thing we want.
Mr. Speaker, we'll see how long that position lasts. Let me try and...
It's not a scandalous comment. 12 years Conservatives have U-turned so many times.
Help the Prime Minister. Let me try and help the Prime Minister by coming at it from a different angle. Before Russia invaded Ukraine, North Sea oil and gas companies were making bumper profits.
They were. In fact, the profits skyrocketed. Sounds interesting.
BP made £9.5 billion. Shell made £14 billion.
I would say that they may have made that money, but then the counter-argument is, where was the money made?
In their own words, more money than they know what to do with.
Well, I'll be honest, I can think of a few ideas. I'm thinking my own island, population 1. It's a fantastic time to be alive.
Since then, the international price of oil and gas has skyrocketed, and so will their profits. When will the Prime Minister admit he's got this badly wrong, put a windfall tax on those super profits, and use the money to cut household energy bills?
So this is a good point. However, it's a catch-22. If they know they can make that kind of money in profit, they know that all they have to do is increase the price further to regain the profit they're losing. It's selfish 101. It's business 101. It's what you expect from a company. I would probably do the same if I could control how much money I make on YouTube. By the way,
smash like and give me all your money.
No, I'm just smash the like. I'll take the like. The point is, it's a bit of an odd one because there's a point to it. However, then you have the semantics argument of where the profits are made. If you've got that number and where it was made, then you go with, oh, but where was the business? And it becomes a really horrible slog of taxation and effort. Can we just go with taxation as theft? Can we all be like the amazing atheist? Abolish tax, everyone. Society can function like that, right? Any groups that exist or clubs, let's just demolish them.
Prime Minister! Mr. Speaker, the net result of that would simply be to see the oil companies put their prices up yet higher.
That's because you dug a trench and you gave them a hill to die on. You gave them the torch and said, "Here, you're in control of this part." By giving energy companies more power than they deserved, you and many others are to blame, obviously. If you want to assign blame, you have put them on this pedestal, this mantle. They are untouchable because of that. Shouldn't have happened, but you know what? I guess it was inevitable. But under their policies, North Sea gas will be shut down. Very true. Very true. They planted trees, log fires. I love log fires. They're nice. Not the right time of year now. It's too warm.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, make it more difficult for them to do what we need them to do, and which I think, by the way, Mr. Speaker, they are doing very responsibly at the moment, and that is divesting from dependence on Russian oil and gas.
But you're gonna, just for the sake of it, the energy companies, you're about to say something later that completely shits on this. And that is how much we rely on Russia to begin with. It's not even 10%. So why are you bragging about them divesting from Russian dependency, and all that crap, when we don't anyway?
And that is the way forward.
We're not there yet, but he will say it, and I'll be absolutely. It's bollocks.
For this country, it is to take a sober, responsible approach, end our dependence on hydrocarbons altogether, and particularly Russian hydrocarbons. And we are taking steps to rectify some of the mistakes made by the Labour government
cringe.
and have a long-term, sustainable, independent energy supply policy.
First of all, no one gives a fuck about what Labour did 12 years ago. You've been in power 12 years. Fam, no one remembers New Labour at this point. They really don't. They don't remember. Hello, Garrett. Hope you're well. You didn't miss anything important at all. Right? No one cares. Not you, Garrett, Labour. No one gives a fuck about Labour. Quite frankly, no. Shut the fuck up. All right? You will, in a future answer, shit on the entire argument of divesting and removing oneself from the dependence on Russian energy. And now you mentioned hydrocarbons. The problem is, your solutions to that involve hydrocarbons anyway. Have you ever seen a solar panel made, you fucking mong?
That's what this country needs.
Protecting energy profits, not working people. Doesn't that say it all?
And that basically, annoyingly, he's right, because Boris said they're being sober and responsible. Yes, by protecting their profit margin. That's what they're interested in. This isn't rocket science.
Britain can't afford another crisis like this. We need to improve our long-term energy security. That starts with supporting new nuclear and renewables. But the Conservatives have effectively banned new onshore wind. As a direct result of this short...
Onshore wind's a tricky one because people then lodge complaints to councils saying that these are eyesores. My view is a bit different. My view is, let's go, fam. We've got some offshore ones near where I live, on the coast, in the ocean, actually. My view is, if you think that's a viable option, start building. You know, I'm not going to take offence to a few of them around here. Not even... Are you snoring, Wizzy? I think she is. I'm not going to take offence to it because we need an alternative. But then the council complaints really do, yeah. It's like when Biden brings up Trump. Yeah, it's the same bollocks, quite frankly. Conservative Labour, same. Normally, you're 100% correct. You really are. It's whenever they present new policies, it's always a case of Operation Turd Polish.
Cited approach. We're using more gas every year than we import from Russia. That's ludicrous. So will the Prime Minister relax planning laws, end the block on onshore wind, and stop supporting policies that make us so dependent on foreign gas?
So I think the reason he's reluctant to remove the ban on onshore wind is entirely because of fracking. Like, come on. How about offshore nuclear plants? I think nuclear plants are the way forward, to be honest, Nathan. I think they're the way forward, realistically. But I doubt they'll explore it or they'll do enough of it. Bear in mind, nuclear plant. We have very limited space. Nuclear plants can only run for a certain number of years, and then a new site has to be created. That's the issue. Well, unless they change the system. That's what it was here anyway, and people then complain about all the waste. And I get it. But I think anyone who thinks that you can just generate energy without there being some form of waste is an idiot. But we could always just fire it into the sun like it was earlier suggested. Hello, Claire. Hope you're well. Oh, wait, this is another important question.
Mr. Speaker, it's thanks to the policies that this government has pursued that we actually only are dependent on Russian gas for 3% of our...
Okay, so 3%. I'm sorry.
Oh, but the energy companies are divesting from their dependence on Russian energy.
It's 3%, Boris. What the fuck are you talking about?
Our gas needs, unlike virtually every other European country, Mr. Speaker. It's thanks to the massive investment that we've had in renewables, Mr. Speaker, that we are, as I've said many times in this House, the Saudi Arabia of wind power, producer of more offshore wind than virtually any other country in the world, Mr. Speaker. And I think he just, by the way, I think he just committed to supporting, this may be news to some of his party, but he just committed to supporting more nuclear power. Sinner that repenteth, Mr. Speaker, than over 100. I'm delighted, and those were the people, Mr. Speaker, who cancelled our nuclear efforts in the time they were in power.
Oh, Michael, someone else suggested the sun. It's all good. The clangers can have some too.
They did completely the wrong thing. I'm delighted to welcome them now.
And this is frustrating. I agree. The questions are good, but the way it's been handled is incredibly asinine.
Come off it. Labour is pro-nuclear. This Prime Minister can't get a single brick laid of a new nuclear plant.
That is true. You've had 12 years.
Energy security isn't just about supply, it's also about reducing demand. Our housing stock is the least efficient in Europe. That's why Labour set out a plan to upgrade the 19 million British homes that desperately need it within a decade, saving families £400 on their energy bill and cutting UK gas imports by 15%.
My father has this view on the newer build houses that they're rubbish. I think his view is, though, if the house doesn't last a few hundred years, it's rubbish. My view is, if the house lasts, I'd say your lifetime, maybe a little longer, then it's good enough. And to do that, and also be energy, you have to cut a few corners a little bit to reduce the longevity in favour of a more sustainable, energy-efficient home. So they're not built like they are or were before. My house, one I live in, is built better than the newer houses, but it is not built to retain warmth as well. And that's what you get. It had to be cavity insulated many years later, and there are many housing shortages at the moment. There really are. These newer houses, he doesn't like them. I think that they aren't great, but they're much more energy efficient than the predecessors. And that's the point, because we can't build them the way they were built to be as longevity infused as they were before, because it's just not a building technique used. It costs too much money. Costs are important, and normally you say you build them, they are. Yeah. No, you understand this. I'm not trying to appeal to authority. If I'm being ignorant at all, by all means, do let me know. I generally think the houses now look beautiful. They're probably not built the same way, sure. They're cheaper, sure. But they're more energy efficient. And that is something that would make things easier. Yes, maybe they won't last as long, but that doesn't matter. We're not living for hundreds of years here, people. If you think a house is meant to last forever, what are you thinking it's going to do? Become some B-graded house that can't be touched? Oh, you can't develop that house. It's vintage. It's vintage with its, that fake wood, stuff stuck on the front as well to make it look pretty, which it does look pretty, I will admit. Cladding. That's what it's called. Cladding.
Whereas all the government have is a failed policy. Taking all their announcements together, it will take 75 years to deliver the upgrades that we need. That's a lifetime when we need urgent action. When is the Prime Minister going to get on with it?
Prime Minister!
Well, Mr. Speaker, I just remind the House that under the Labour government, our nuclear output fell from, I think, about 25% to about 10% of our energy needs.
Fam, it was 12 years ago, well, more than that, and we went through one of the biggest recessions in our history.
As I recall, it was because of the decisions that they took. We're
Hey,
now
Thunder
going
Rain,
to
hope
rectify,
you're well.
Mr. Speaker, and we're helping households. He asked about the cost of energy bills. We're helping households with the cost of energy bills to the tune of £9.1 billion. Now, why
Michael,
can this
that's a
government afford
good point,
to do that?
and Romans
why can
did
we
do it
afford
best.
to put huge quantities of taxpayers'
Especially the
money
buggery.
into supporting households and their energy costs? I'll tell you why, Mr. Speaker. It's because we got the fastest growth in the G7.
Right, having the fastest growth in the G7 isn't a flex. While it says our economy is doing better, it doesn't mean it's doing great. It just means we're doing better than others. It really isn't a flex.
And don't forget that if we'd listened to Captain Hindsight, we'd have stayed in lockdown and we'd have never achieved it, Mr. Speaker.
12 years in PAM, that's the best he can do? The Ukrainian people,
He's got a point.
Mr. Speaker, the Ukrainian people are fighting for democracy. We must stand with them. That means taking the toughest possible measures against Putin. And let's be honest.
This is a bit of a weird segue.
There'll be costs here at home. We can withstand those costs, and we must, by using a windfall tax to keep bills down for working people. By starting a new era of energy policy, never again at the mercy of a dictator.
Dictator.
supporting new nuclear after years of neglect, sprinting on renewables, including onshore wind, and an urgent national mission to upgrade homes, ending years of dither and delay.
I think they're pointing at Ed Miliband. No, David Miliband. Is it? No, it's Ed. David's the one that quit, who should have been the leader of the party. Save on running new builds, but overall lost on construction of new builds. Carbon footprint. Yeah, no, you see, you make more sense than I do.
Delay. So why is the Prime Minister offering the same failed energy policy that cast us into the security crisis and allowed bills to rocket?
Mr. Speaker,
Sorry, Prime Minister. I want to hear the answer, but also standing up's not going to catch my eye. In fact, it's got the opposite effect on me.
No, because they stood up, it caught your eye. You're an idiot.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what we are junking is the failed energy policies that left us without enough nuclear power, Mr. Speaker. And what we are going to do is go forward
Trudeau
with
raises his
policies
head.
that allow this country
Dictator.
to be independent in our energy supply.
Let's government dictate energy prices.
Renewables,
So
Mr.
that's
Speaker.
actually an interesting point, because government used to have assets. Those assets included control over many things, and they were social systems. They were the rails. They had control over the post. They had control over... Did we have energy? We had water. I know we had that. And I think we might have had energy. We might have had that. We never had control of the internet, and I do think the government should have done something with that, because I'm kind of sick and tired of the shite I get. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. It's one of those things that needs improving. That's what it needs. And limiting the prices, yeah, but who donates their party if they did that?
Making sure that we use transitional hydrocarbons and going for nuclear as well. As I say, I'm overjoyed that Labour now seems to occupy that position. But what we will also do, Mr. Speaker, and here he has been supportive, is make sure that as a House of Commons we work together to maintain our opposition to Vladimir Putin's vile war in Ukraine.
I'm glad you call him Vladimir and not President Putin, because the guy doesn't deserve a title. He deserves to be curb stomped.
And that, together with the toughest possible economic sanctions, by maintaining our military support for the people.
And then before someone
of
says, like
Ukraine,
they did on Twitter earlier,
oh, but America's worse.
difficult times,
Shut the fuck
Mr.
up.
Speaker, we will come through it stronger. And I've no doubt that Vladimir Putin will fail, and we will succeed in restoring a sovereign and independent Ukraine.
And then what about Putin? Are you going to take him to The Hague? Maybe deliver him yourself, perhaps? Let's go to... Right, so we're going to go to the paper pervert, because he has good questions here. I like these questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are now 14 days into Putin's war. And in that time, I've generally tried to work constructively with the UK government, and I will continue to seek to do this. However, nobody should support this government when it comes to the response to the refugee crisis. 760 visa approvals in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's quite a slow progress. I say that knowing that I've got a friend in Texas who just got rejected for no valid reason whatsoever, even though they benefit this country greatly. Like, seriously. Our system is supposed to be tighter, I get it, but you have fucked this one up.
Is disgraceful. In that time, Poland has taken over 1.2 million refugees. Hungary has taken over 190,000 refugees. Germany has taken over 50,000 refugees. Italy...
Nathan, if you're still here, Boris just received a piece of paper. That piece of paper will give him answers on this, or lead him.
Over 7,000 refugees. Ireland, a country of just over 5 million people, has given sanctuary to 3 times as many refugees as the United Kingdom. These numbers don't lie. They tell a devastating
Hello, Dr.
truth.
Mr. Black. Hope you're well.
Does the Prime Minister find it acceptable?
Hi, Lloyd
that
Watson.
his
Hope you're
Home
well.
Secretary has overseen one of the slowest, most bureaucratic and incompetent refugee responses in the whole of Europe?
Prime Minister.
This is actually quite bad, because we've had people turn up here at our border, then be turned around because they hadn't finished filling in paperwork. They had to go back to Calais, to fill in more paperwork to come here as a refugee. It's not looking good.
Mr. Speaker, I think everybody sympathises with the plight of refugees, and this government wants to do everything we can to welcome them, and that is indeed what we are doing. And the numbers are almost 1,000 as I speak to him today, and they will rise very sharply, Mr. Speaker. They are uncapped. We expect those numbers to rise to in the region of the hundreds of thousands. As Vladimir Putin doubles down in his attacks, we will go further, Mr. Speaker, and there will be routes by which the whole country can offer a welcome.
That's a good point, Normie. Where? I don't know where. I really don't. I'm very well, thank you, Mr. Black. Dr. Mr. Black, and thank you for watching my content. It's a tricky situation, this one, with refugees. But I think when it comes to the position that not grandstanding. Well, it is moral grandstanding from Blackford, but he's able to use other countries and how they're just willing to let people in. We have a system, and Boris wants to stay true to that on purpose. They talk about Ukrainian freedom when they shatter their own country's freedom. Yeah, I know. It's a bit ironic, Garrett, isn't it?
To people from Ukraine, vulnerable people fleeing from Ukraine. And my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, will be setting out that.
Hang on, Secretary of State for Levelling Up. Is that an office? It sounds like one where you just sit around playing video games all day.
Route in the course of the next few days. This government has a proud record. We've done more to resettle vulnerable people than any other European country since 2015.
Weird flex, but okay.
I don't think the Prime Minister understands the scale of the challenge or the urgency. These are people fleeing war crimes, torn apart from their families as their homes are shelled, and the Home Secretary is blocking them with endless paperwork. This isn't just incompetence, this is ideology. In the face of the biggest refugee crisis in Europe since the Second World War, the UK government won't set aside the hostile environment. And by the way, we're seeing the hostile environment this afternoon. They might quieten down a bit. We've seen this too many times from a Tory Home Office. The Windrush scandal, the Go Home
he
ban,
does. He needs to pay.
the inhumane Nationality and Borders Bill. The UK Home Office is raising barriers and bureaucracy when we should be offering care and compassion.
The issue we have is that there have been many who've come across from other countries and have proven to be not refugees but economic migrants solely here to leech off us. And you're okay with this, Blackford. You're always okay with it. Even though the consequences of that would mean having to tax the people more to pay for it.
Prime Minister, do not let the history of failure repeat itself. Scotland stands ready to offer sanctuary and refuge. So will the Prime Minister join with the rest of the European continent and waive the visa restrictions for refugees fleeing war in Ukraine?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this country has an unparalleled record. And look, just since I have been Prime Minister, look at the numbers we've taken from Afghanistan, from Hong Kong. Mr. Speaker, he lectures the Home Secretary. This is a government unlike any other. The Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Home Secretary are directly descended, Mr. Speaker, from refugees.
So that's actually a point, Garrett. If they hadn't allowed that influx, thing is a lot of these countries are still making the same mistake twice.
We understand how much refugees have to give to this country, and we understand how much this country
refugee give. Interesting choice of words. I'm gonna ignore this now. We're gonna go back here. Oh no, here. That's it. I clicked on tab. Sorry about that. Can I exit that? I can. Fantastic. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, Boris hasn't done overly well. I don't think he did that well today. A lot of it was shifting the attention, and I think that's because I don't think he knew what was going on. I don't think he knew what he was trying to do either. But I do think that this sets things up nicely. I knew about the fracking thing because that happened afterwards. I like that John Bercow has been banned from Parliament for life. That's interesting, or is going to be banned from Parliament for life and will never get a peerage. But I do also believe he deserves a fair trial if one is pushed for, which I think he probably could push for. He probably could. Now, I think we are done, so I do apologise. I will be streaming here on Friday, another research stream. So I hope to see you all there. There isn't a politics one on Friday, I'm afraid, because Traps isn't here. Sorry about that. And I can't really brainstorm or spitball on my own for an hour and a bit. If you don't already, please consider following us on Spotify, though. We do upload our shows there, and we'd appreciate it. So thank you for joining again, and I will see you all soon. Ta-ta.